In a world of terrifying creatures, being small means facing danger at every turn.
If you were a small animal, the late Cretaceous would have been an awful time to be around.
For a youngster, every day is a struggle to stay alive. Their only chance, keep out of trouble and grow up fast.
If you're a young dinosaur, every mega herbivore in the environment wants to crush you.
To survive, dinosaurs develop advanced tools, astonishing on the outside and on the inside. For the first time in 65 million years, cutting-edge imaging technology will peel back skin, muscles, and bones to reveal the secrets of nature's greatest success story. The largest dinosaurs grow as tall as a 6-story building and weigh 50 tons or more. No land animal today even comes close. The jaws of a T-Rex can leave a bite mark 4 feet long, and 12-inch teeth can penetrate deep into flesh. But every dinosaur, no matter how big or powerful, starts out small, very small. Oklahoma, 110 million years ago. A herd of Sauroposeidon are on the move.
We're talking about an animal that was probably 80 or 90 feet long, and about 40 feet of that was just neck. So when it stuck its neck straight up, it could probably reach about 60 feet up in the air.
These leviathans are making a journey to nesting sites they've used for generations. Developing inside them are hundreds of eggs. They're the future of a species that will be around for 15 million years, more than 75 times longer than modern humans have been on Earth. Yet each egg is no larger than a cantaloupe.
I think it's a very beautiful idea that you have this little egg that's surprisingly small, and out of it comes a baby Sauroposeidon that's about the size of a rabbit. And in 2 or 3 decades, it's going to be a 50-ton adult.
But just why does this huge animal have such small eggs? Sauroposeidon eggs, like all eggs, are honeycombed with tiny pores to let oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. Bigger eggs need more air holes, but get too big and this tiny home collapses. That's why even today, no bird lays a larger egg than an ostrich, an egg weighing just over 3 pounds. Each female lays about 500 eggs a season. This sounds like the beginning of a sauropod population explosion, but it's not. The moment an egg hatches marks the beginning of a race for survival. A race virtually every one of them will lose.
Being a hatchling, you don't have horns, you don't have plates, you don't have any kind of armor on the body. Practically anything could gobble it up.
Thousands of defenseless hatchlings are let loose into a world of fierce predators. It's a brutal way to raise a family.
Sauropods are just trying to flood the environment with babies, just in the hopes that a few survive.
In the Cretaceous, plant eaters faced vicious killers. And none has a worse reputation than Tyrannosaurus rex, possibly the largest land predator that has ever lived.
The T-Rex is sort of the quintessential monster.
A dinosaur with an attitude.
A Tyrannosaurus rex can grow to 18 feet tall and over 40 feet long, with jaws designed to tear meat to shreds. This beast's reputation for violence and terror is unmatched. But a T-Rex comes into the world protected like few others in the Cretaceous.
If you say Tyrannosaurus rex, I think of gentleness. I think of superb motherhood and a struggle to raise one's chicks.
The dreaded Tyrannosaurus rex, it turns out, is one of the most nurturing of all dinosaur parents.
It means taking care of the eggs, sticking around the nest, defending the nest, and keeping track of its progress.
Tyrannosaurus rex means tyrant lizard king. And this beast rules a world where physical traits more than intelligence determine winners and losers. But T-Rex has both. Superb biomechanics and, by dinosaur standards, a stellar intellect.
It was the result of many, many millions of years of specialization for large body size, for focus on prey, for sensory apparatus, and for the ability to dispatch a large herbivore.
With things like Tyrannosaurus rex, you have bigger brains. You have the option for more complex behaviors, especially when it comes to parental care.
For 3 months, an adult delicately guards the nest to ensure the survival of their youngsters and the continuation of their genes.
You've got to have somebody that's very, very attentive when these little things hatch.
Inside the egg, the embryo breathes in oxygen and exhales carbon dioxide. The CO2 dissolves in fluid, making carbonic acid. Acid that slowly weakens the shell. Suddenly, something miraculous happens. A 3-foot-long T-Rex chick breaks free.
You can imagine T-Rex helping its young out of the shell, even with those big, giant jaws.
The hatchling is tiny compared to its gigantic parents. And this heir to the T-Rex throne is immediately under threat.
Tyrannosaurus rex, when we think about it, we tend to think of the big adult because that's the skeletons that we see. But we know that they didn't hatch that way.
Once those eggs hatch, we've got an animal that's maybe 3 feet long, maybe weighs about 5 to 8 pounds. Comparing that to the adults, which might weigh as much as 7 tons and be 40 feet in length, how is this animal going to be careful to not step on these little beasts, let alone try to protect them and try to make sure that they're going to be cared for?
There's nothing fearsome about them. Sure, maybe someday they'll become a fearsome animal, but at that time they're just a meatball on legs.
Wherever this T-Rex looks, he stares danger in the face.
There were crocodiles, medium, large to gigantic, that could plop down, swallow baby T-Rexes like maraschino cherries.
Clearly, a young T-Rex is very susceptible to be eaten by just about everybody else who's around who likes to eat meat.
And danger isn't limited to the ground. Sometimes it dives out of the sky. Quetzalcoatlus, a 400-pound flying carnivorous reptile, circles, waiting for just the right moment to strike.
Quetzalcoatlus would make all other animals in the late Cretaceous stare. With a 42-foot wingspan, they could shut out the sun.
One tool that makes this flying reptile so effective is a highly advanced eyeball. Its eyes are built like a hawk's and are able to see with 4 times the clarity of a human eye. Add to that a retina over 4 inches wide containing over 1 billion light receptors. And you've got a reptile that sees the world in high def.
There probably weren't many animals in the Cretaceous that would dare to try to grab a baby Tyrannosaurus rex. Quetzalcoatlus could probably manage it.
You see a stork on the Nile today eating a baby crocodile, and you can imagine in your mind Quetzalcoatlus eating a baby tyrannosaur 65 million years ago.
I never know how well Tyrannosaurus could count, but I imagine Mom would be a little bit perplexed when suddenly she was down to 5 instead of 6, and there was no sign of where it had gone.
For a baby Tyrannosaurus rex, danger lurks everywhere, but at least he has a fighting chance. For Sauroposeidon, it's another story altogether. They are born defenseless, and worse, they are born alone.
If you want to have intensive parental care, you can only take care of a limited number of offspring. If you want to have lots of offspring, you have to have little or no parental care. And sauropods took that route.
From birth, Sauroposeidon is in a race for survival. For every 3,000 hatchlings, only one will make it to adulthood. And to become that one survivor, it must fend for itself for years. For this future behemoth, there's just one rule: grow or die.
When we look at sauropod track sites, where we have tracks of hundreds of individuals all together, there's a curious thing. These big groups of sauropods always include only the adults and the animals down to about 1/3 of full size.
For a juvenile Sauroposeidon, growing up alone means growing up in constant danger.
So think about a juvenile sauroposeidon that's the size of a pony or a horse. It has no sharp teeth, no plates, no spikes, no horns, no armor. It's not even very fast. And so what would happen to those juvenile sauroposeidons if they were faced by a pack of Deinonychus? Well, they would die.
Sauroposeidon navigates a world of hungry predators.
When you start off coming out of the egg and you're less than, say, 2 feet long, and you're in a world full of predators that are loving to crunch on you, then you need to get big fairly quickly.
The cards seem stacked against this future titan. With odds like these, how will this massive creature survive? Tyrannosaurus rex, a skull almost 5 feet long, up to 60 serrated teeth, able to cover 15 feet in a single stride. This is one of the biggest carnivorous dinosaurs ever to walk the earth.
T-Rex has bone-crushing teeth. They're huge. They have 2 or 3 or 4 times the strength for the body size of any other meat eater.
Yet a T-Rex is born into a world of enemies. Survival, even for a king, is in no way preordained.
Herbivores are not dummies. They'll try to remove the dangerous elements in a preemptive strike. If you're a baby tyrannosaur, every mega herbivore in the environment wants to crush you.
It's as if somehow, inside the tiny brain of a triceratops, a fearful picture emerges. An image that one day this tiny T-Rex chick will grow into a menacing monster, able to tear this plant eater limb from limb. But perhaps their greatest enemy is a bit more familiar.
Probably the greatest danger to a baby T-Rex is another T-Rex, the family from over the hill. Because Darwinian calculus tells you, the predator, to eliminate your competition, other predators, whenever you can.
Male lions defend their cubs against rivals who see their offspring as future competition for food and mates. Wouldn't an intelligent predator like T-Rex make the same calculation? Compared to prehistoric plant eaters, its cerebrum, the part of the brain associated with strategy, is huge. So is the cerebellum, which controls muscle function. This is an animal that can plan and execute a devastating attack. It's a behavior hardwired into the brain.
If you're trying to increase your evolutionary advantage, the best thing you can do is get more offspring into the future generation. And one of the best ways you can do that is to take better care of the offspring that you produce.
Laying eggs nearly depletes a female. She needs nourishment to stay strong, and nourishment means meat. While she searches out her next meal, the male stays behind to guard the nest. Luckily, a Tyrannosaurus rex on the hunt is guided by some of the keenest senses in the Cretaceous.
its eyesight would actually have been very, very good.
The eyes of a T-Rex are gigantic, the size of softballs. A large retina collects more light, more visual information. The result, T-Rex can clearly see prey from as far away as 4 miles. Critically, both eyes face forwards, and their line of sight overlaps. So each eye looks at the same object from a slightly different angle. That means T-Rex can experience the world in 3 dimensions.
There's very little in the environment of T-Rex that would escape its attention.
For a hunter, hungry after months of growing her eggs, making a kill may mean the difference between life and death. Ankylosaurus is an herbivore, but it's a tank of a reptile covered in steel-tough armor. T-Rex 3D vision pulls this animal clear of the background. Could this plant eater be dinner?
T-Rex is impressive and it's powerful, but compared to an ankylosaur, it's relatively lightly built.
Protective plates made of bone and cartilage cover this lumbering creature from head to tail. Light but extremely strong, the hide of Ankylosaurus is built like a bulletproof vest. And that's not all. Ankylosaurus is armed with a deadly weapon, a bony club.
If that club were to connect into the skull of the T-Rex or into the shin and foot of the T-Rex, it would shatter those bones.
I think that one good blow by the tail club would be enough to deter this Tyrannosaurus.
Ankylosaurus are plant eaters, yet they're designed to kill. Even a Tyrannosaurus Rex would have to be at the top of its game to bring one down. T-Rex has a refined array of senses that just might lead the way directly to a meal. An acute sense of smell, for one. Behind the nostrils are large cavernous chambers lined with sheets of sensory tissue able to detect odors. The olfactory bulbs transmit that information back to the brain.
One of the big surprises was the size of the olfactory bulbs, part of the brain associated with processing information about smells in the environment.
To increase the number of odor detectors, the area containing sensory tissue is designed like a radiator. A T-Rex can pick up the slightest whiff of meat as it faintly wafts across the landscape.
T-Rex had a sense of smell equivalent to 100 bloodhounds all duct taped together.
They certainly had the largest olfactory lobe of any animal living or extinct on this planet.
A super sense of smell is a hunter's dream. From a substantial distance, a T-Rex can zero in on prey or pick up their hatchling's distinct scent. And when you look into the face of a T-Rex, something else becomes obvious. The nostrils are a full 10 inches apart. But why? It means T-Rex can smell in stereo. This carnivore can triangulate an odor, pinpoint its exact source.
T-Rex could walk into a crowded auditorium and in a few seconds identify every single person and creature by its own idiosyncratic odors.
This female is desperate to eat. She picks up the scent of a meal. But it's the scent of an animal all but the strongest tyrannosaurs prefer not to mess with.
That's the most dangerous challenge that any big carnivore ever faced was the swinging head of Triceratops. It's like a gigantic white rhinoceros on steroids.
26 feet long and 10 feet tall, a full-grown Triceratops can reach 6 tons in weight.
If there's an animal whose scent would frighten a T-Rex, it's Triceratops.
T-Rex is well aware of the risks. Its cerebrum has information stored from previous contacts. It knows the danger ahead. Turning a Triceratops into lunch means overpowering a beast with 3-foot-long horns sheathed in rock-hard keratin and a body protected by a bony shield. But possibly, the survival of her genes for another generation might be just one fight away.
One could imagine that the conflict between Tyrannosaurus and Triceratops may have been one of the greatest combats that nature has ever had.
And this well-protected herbivore is everywhere. In fact, in the late Cretaceous, Triceratops outnumbered Tyrannosaurs 10-1. Their success is down to one reason.
A single thrust of the brow horn could penetrate right into the cardiac chamber or the lungs.
If you're going to put a meter-long horn into a chest cavity of a T-Rex, the chance of you doing some damage are pretty great.
Tyrannosaurus rex is stabbed in the eye. Triceratops, an herbivore, gets the best of the king of Cretaceous.
The key element for any predator is to go in, make the kill, get what they need, and do it without injuring themselves.
For a carnivorous predator, losing an eye could be fatal. Back at the nest, the chicks are guarded only by the male. Overhead, a Quetzalcoatlus senses blood. On the ground, one parent is down and the other faces starvation. For a baby T-Rex, it seems the situation couldn't get much worse. Sauroposeidon is the tallest land animal of all time. At 60 feet high and almost 100 feet long, it would dwarf any living creature today. Yet despite these mammoth proportions, its brain is tiny, weighing just 4 ounces.
The brain size of Sauroposeidon would probably be about the size of a cheeseburger.
Probably had the smallest brain size to body size of any big animal that's ever lived.
Big, dumb brute.
Sauroposeidon's brain is 1,000 times smaller than its body. Just an eighth the brain capacity of a T-Rex. Worse, its cerebrum, where strategic thinking takes place, is barely developed.
I mean, these guys were, frankly, dumb as a fence post.
Sauroposeidon does almost everything by instinct, including rearing, or more accurately, not rearing its children.
It may seem cruel to just dig a hole and leave your eggs and wander on, but it's a very effective means of reproduction if you can afford to make lots of babies. We know that the sauropods were not taking care of the newly hatched babies. We don't find the newly hatched babies with the adults.
Scientists believe Sauroposeidon's gargantuan size makes incubating eggs a physical impossibility.
When you're running, say, 60, 80 feet in length, and your eggs are only about the size of a cantaloupe, the size difference makes it so hard to be gentle.
I think sauropods like Sauroposeidon are just too big to be able to control where their body mass is going to be. They don't have the brain capacity to understand where their butt is at the same time as where their head is.
With its mammoth size and limited intellect, Sauroposeidon relies on a totally different method than Tyrannosaurus rex to raise its young.
In its lifespan, a mated pair of Sauroposeidons might produce thousands and thousands of eggs, and only maybe a couple or 3 are going to survive to adulthood. So what that tells us is that almost all of the offspring are being killed and eaten by predators.
Basically, you're flooding all the carnivores with so much food that they can't eat it all, and so there's bound to be some survivors.
Sauroposeidon's approach to its young sounds brutish and cruel. Something best left in Earth's distant past. But it isn't.
Sauroposeidon, like sea turtles, for example, seems to have tried to overwhelm the predators with just sheer numbers of offspring. They're not just all laying their eggs within a few weeks of each other, they're all trying to lay their eggs on the same night or two. And one of the reasons is that they can overwhelm the predators. If you have a food resource that's available in vast numbers, but only for a very limited time, it's hard for predators to eat all of them.
From the moment sea turtles hatch, they are on their own. For predators, hatching time is a veritable feast. Still, the strategy works. Carnivores munch down virtually every hatchling. A few, though, do make it. Not even the most voracious feeders can kill them all.
Sauropods were in a predator-rich environment, so I'm sure that many, many sauropod nests were found and destroyed by predators before the babies could even hatch.
Sauroposeidon's size is its main defense. When it reaches an adult weight of 50 tons, nothing can touch it. But maintaining this massive girth means filling your belly almost constantly. An adult will eat almost anything that grows. They consume as much as 330,000 calories, almost a ton of greenery every day. To find that much food, herds roam far and wide. Even if they had the brain capacity to care for their young, there just isn't enough vegetation to let them stay by the nest.
How much of your resources do you put into reproduction, to producing the next generation? And it's always a trade-off. If you put in a lot of parental care, then you don't have the resources to make lots and lots of babies. Or you can go the other way and make tons and tons of babies, but you won't have the resources left to take very good care of them.
Taking care of offspring requires not only brain power, but also well-developed senses. Sauroposeidon has neither. Its eyes are separated, located on each side of its head, so it has no ability to judge depth. Its small brain has just rudimentary centers of sight and smell. And its hearing is severely limited, as the cochlea duct inside the inner ear is tiny.
Sauroposeidon probably had a brain about the size of a kitten's, because it was not, unfortunately, a very smart animal. It didn't have to be. It was a food processing plant.
Sauroposeidon's 5 senses are little more than a life support system for the biggest stomach the world has ever known. For a hatchling, the situation is even more dire. They lack even the most basic early warning system. The danger is present.
Herbivores are growing much faster than the carnivores. If they don't grow fast, they get eaten.
Still, it will be a decade or more before this Sauroposeidon is big enough to join the herd. And it will spend all those years alone.
So where are the smaller animals? What did the sauropods do until they were a third grown? They weren't moving with the herd. They were probably hiding out in the forest, trying to eat as much as they could, get as big as they could, as fast as they could, so that they could join the herd. That's the best defense. It doesn't matter what else you're equipped with, whether you have horns or armor or whatever. The best defense is always to get big. And if you're a sauropod, you've got nothing else. So getting big is the only game in town.
But for Sauroposeidon, every day spent growing up is a day trying to keep out of the sights of this guy.
Deinonychus is a killing machine. Here was a creature that was small. It was fast.
Deinonychus was really one of the most remarkable predators the Earth has seen.
A three-dimensional fighter, a kickboxing dinosaur.
The weapon that defines Deinonychus is a slashing 4-inch razor-sharp blade, kept upright during walking or running, constantly cocked, ready for a fight. This vicious claw can deliver 450 pounds of force and rotate almost 180 degrees. To eviscerate prey, Deinonychus uses both its hands and feet.
These were animals that had weapons everywhere you go.
A ridiculous amount of weaponry for an animal of its size. So clearly this is an animal that's evolved for whatever reason to be able to dish out a lot of damage for its size.
For a juvenile Sauroposeidon, even a juvenile the size of a polar bear, Deinonychus means trouble. And a whole pack of Deinonychus means a whole pack of trouble. It's hard to imagine how Sauroposeidons survive in a world where they face down savage killers all alone. But they do survive, grow up, and one day become almost indestructible. For Tyrannosaurus rex, the most advanced carnivore that has ever lived, the odds are even tougher. A T-Rex nest. The chicks are growing up fast. The female is far away, on a hunt trying to replenish her strength. The male stays behind to guard the roost.
There's always this idyllic picture of this female Tyrannosaurus guarding her clutch of eggs. It may have been the male, as far as we know. I mean, the female could have said, "Buddy, you caused the problem. You take care of them."
But the male needs to eat too. A warm-blooded carnivore can't last for long without a meal. As scent travels on the breeze, an aroma his brain instantly recognizes. A Triceratops, dead and rotting. Dinner just got one step closer. And the advantage of a carcass is that it can't fight back.
There's this debate, was T-Rex a scavenger or a predator? And the answer to that is it was both. Any large animal needs to be able to find food on a regular basis. And these guys were warm-blooded. They needed to eat frequently.
But with both parents out searching for food, the nest is left unguarded. Exposed, danger lurks everywhere. Triceratops may be a plant eater, but with a defenseless baby T-Rex around, it'll make an exception. Quetzalcoatlus is the largest flying carnivore in Earth's history. It eats 10 pounds of flesh every day, nearly the weight of 2 hatchlings combined. To survive, these chicks will have to keep a very low profile. The male is on the trail of a meal. A Tyrannosaurus rex can pinpoint the exact location of an odor. Soon, he's headed straight for the dead Triceratops.
The sense of smell was powerful in T-Rex. The nerve that goes to the sense of smell is the biggest nerve in the dinosaur head.
They could probably tell not just if there was a dinosaur that had walked past, they could be able to tell that that dinosaur walked past 2.5 hours ago.
T-Rex's nose, like a laser guidance system, leads him directly to his target. What these advanced senses do not tell him, though, is how his Triceratops died in the first place. The answer to that question is found in the mouth of another T-Rex. It turns out this predator's massive jaws with their bone-crushing teeth able to bite down with enough force to bend steel are just the beginning.
It's quite likely that the teeth of carnivorous dinosaurs have rotting meat, little bits of it caught in their teeth, and therefore a lot of bacteria, and therefore an infectious bite.
The bacteria would have given T-Rex permanent morning breath.
There'd be many reasons you would not want to be around the mouth of a T-Rex, and smell would have been one of them.
That bacteria means a bite. Any bite that draws blood can cause a life-threatening infection.
Even if the animal managed to survive the wounds generated from the bite, the prey dinosaur would get weaker and sicker, and the predator could then hunt it down and kill it.
Chomped by a T-Rex, and you're going down, be it now or later. And once you're down, Tyrannosaurus rex will find you and eat you. The problem for this T-Rex is that the stench of rotting meat draws a crowd. And while a hungry adult male fights for his share of the spoils, his unguarded hatchlings wait for his return. All while a Quetzalcoatlus circles overhead. "50 million years before the first T-Rex walked the Earth, Sauroposeidon youngsters are already out on their own. Huge numbers hatch each year, but only 3 out of 10,000 will survive to adulthood. The most dangerous time is when they're smallest, the first few weeks.
Their best defense is to get as big as they can, as fast as they can.
In order to grow very big, very fast, they do something that appears to break the most basic rules of biology. For the first few years, these plant eaters are meat eaters.
Probably many of them were eating insects and small animals because it was a ready source of protein. Very many plant-eating animals will also take animal prey when they can get them because it's an important source of nutrients that are really hard to get from plants.
A young Sauroposeidon processes food in an entirely different way than an adult, digesting its food in the stomach and small intestine. It's a digestive process more akin to the carnivores it fears. And Sauroposeidon has another trick for growing to mammoth proportions: hollow bones. Its backbone, neck, and ribs have walls just a fraction of an inch thick. Even its limbs are far less dense than the bones of many mammals.
So look at these big sauropods like Sauroposeidon. They're growing to 20, 30, 40, 50 tons, and they're doing it in the space of just 2 or 3 decades.
Sauropods grow in spurts, depending on their age, the season, and the availability of food. We know this because their growth is recorded as rings, just like rings in a tree trunk. For the first few years of a Sauroposeidon's life, predators are at every turn. One of the most common, Deinonychus, is also one of the most deadly.
Cunning. Definitely cunning. Big brain. Smart.
It's the sort of creature that seems very adept for doing a lot of damage in a very short amount of time.
Nasty. Deinonychus is a very, very nasty animal that you meet up with one of these and your chances of being disemboweled are pretty great.
For something like Deinonychus, Sauroposeidon would be a great meal.
For the herbivore Sauroposeidon, death by Deinonychus is neither pleasant nor painless. It's a kill not unlike today's hyenas, one of the Serengeti's most effective predators.
When hyenas bite through the gut of antelope, it just stops. It's functionally dead.
While juveniles fight it out in the woodlands, adult Sauroposeidon are, as always, foraging for food. With their tiny brains, they live in a world of oblivion, seemingly unaware of the fate of their offspring. Tyrannosaurus rex, though, lives in an entirely different world. A male wolfs down a triceratops carcass.
Those powerful jaws smash into the meat of the animal. Those gigantic teeth pierce down through flesh. These well-rooted teeth are there to break into the bones.
Scavenging keeps T-Rex alive. Maintaining strength is essential. His chicks are depending on him. Left alone, they are as vulnerable as a clutch of baby Sauroposeidon. And a Quetzalcoatlus has a voracious appetite. Soaring at 10,000 feet, a sense of smell is useless. This flying reptile relies on its fantastic eyesight to scan for vulnerable youngsters on the ground.
It could make the difference between a meal and no meal.
It zeroes in on a target. A 3-foot-long baby T-Rex appears on the radar.
it's going to need to have fairly good distance vision in order to be able to see just generally where it's going and targets on the ground.
This T-Rex is not a killer. Not yet. And these babies taste just as good as any other little dinosaurs that dot the landscape.
They would have been just about the right size to be a snack for Quetzalcoatlus.
Luckily, just as this massive flying reptile approaches the nest, the male senses trouble. His ultra-sensitive olfactory lobes pick up the distinctive scent of Quetzalcoatlus. This triggers a rush of chemicals to the brain and an immediate decision to return to the nest. But Quetzalcoatlus are fast, and it only takes a split second to launch their 400-pound bodies skyward. The other chicks might just make it for another generation. Dinosaurs ruled the Earth for millions of years. They grew to almost unimaginable sizes, adapted to extreme environments all over the globe.
These animals were very successful and really some of the crowning achievements of evolution.
And they do it all without much brain power.
Dinosaurs didn't need to solve quadratic equations. They didn't need to play chess. They didn't need to learn how to build rockets that go to the moon. What they needed to do was do the things dinosaurs do.
You really only need to be as smart or smarter than the animals that you're around.
These are animals that need to respond to threats, be able to guard their young, might need to be doting parents in many cases, might need to be able to find distant resources, but they don't necessarily need to comprehend philosophy.
The armored dinosaurs in general, and Ankylosaurus is no exception here, were not bright dinosaurs.
Probably one of the dumbest dinosaurs that ever lived. Their brains are really small for the size of their heads and their bodies.
Dinosaurs have just one job: successfully operate the advanced machines that dinobodies have evolved into. And this is a job they do extremely well.
They would have seen and smelled and heard the world in ways that far exceed what we're able to do. And in a way, that's a lot of brain power, just different kind of brain power.
For dinosaurs, brain power, carefully honed physical traits, and instinct itself all work together. The result, dinosaurs survived for over 165 million years, 800 times longer than we've been on the planet.
They were on this planet for more than 100 million years, and these guys were very successful, and they only went out because of extraterrestrial causes.
It took a meteor to wipe out the dinosaurs, a fact that speaks to their incredible staying power. With their magnificent bodies and tiny brains, dinosaurs were success stories like no other creatures the planet has seen before or since, including the human race.